Welcome, my dear audience and friends, to another episode of Cancer Convos with Grace B. This is your host, Grace B, always coming to you from New York City, the city that never sleeps and is home to Cancer Convos with Grace B. I'd like to thank you guys once again for all your support, for making sure that for making sure, sorry, that this show stays alive. And I'm so happy about the feedback we constantly receive about how we actually touch the nerve of the cancer community in the sense that we appeal to cancer patients, survivors, caregivers, and all other populations concerned. Now, today's show is going to be a very, very nice one. I can already feel it in my bones. And our next guest is a true force in every sense of the word. He's a prostate cancer survivor, and he is creating change in the media space and in his life science space, where he has a brand that talks about mental health and well-being, that talks about whole person care and how to bounce back after a cancer diagnosis or any other health challenge. His whole essence is the why. Why do we do certain things? Why must we do certain things? And the positive or negative effects that these have on us invariably. And so we're going to be diving into his mission, into his vision, into his story. And so, without much ado, I'd like to welcome Robert Ginyard to our show. Thank you. Welcome to our show, Robert, and we are so proud and happy to meet your acquaintance. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Grace. It is a pleasure to see you and talk with you again. And
Oh,
so I am
yes.
excited about us getting together
Mhm.
and enlightening the world and helping people live their better lives.
Exactly. That's what we do, right?
That's right.
God keeps us. So we'll roll now with the dice.
Okay.
I would love everyone to know a bit about your story. What drew me to you was that we share the same experience, which is cancer. And without beating too much about it, just tell us a bit about your story, please.
Sure. Well, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer at the age of 48. It was surgery and then followed up with radiation treatment. Again, that was at 48 years old. I am now 62. And so I am grateful to be alive. But what happened with that diagnosis, Grace, is it inspired me to become more of an advocate in that space, and not so much just about prostate cancer, but just living a good life. Really putting together the mind, body, and the spirit. So that's what brought me to this space. And initially, I didn't want to do this. I didn't. I wanted to get treated and just kind of go out living my life the way I used to. And, there was another plan in place for me to be out here advocating and again, helping people live their best lives.
Exactly. So, what do you think is important for others like you to hear about your experience, especially the men?
Sure.
You know, our brothers can be very stubborn, right?
Oh, don't I know it? Don't I know it? Well, part of my advocacy work is really about involving men in the process of living a full life. And that involves the mind, body, and the spirit, but really coming to grips with who am I living for, and making sure that you can be the best spouse, the best father, uncle, brother. And to do that means really a lot of self-examination and taking care of our health. I think the greatest form of wealth is our health. And so that's the message that I try to get out to men is to live your best lives by living a healthy life. And Grace, I have to tell you this, that I remember prior to my surgery and then my treatment, but particularly with prostate cancer, a lot of men, when they think prostate cancer, they think, oh, wow, I'm not going to be able to make love to my wife or partner or anybody anymore. And what I found going through that experience, and for one, I'll dispel that myth. I am able to be intimate with my wife, and then two, what it taught me by going through all of this, Grace, is a different level of intimacy with my wife. You
Mhm.
know, that it's just not about what's below the waistline. It's
Mhm.
about what's upstairs, what's in the mind. And so, while cancer has had its negative effects on my life, I will say there were some positives that came out of it to help me be the better person, and help me live a better life.
That's excellent. Honestly, I love your insights about it's not what is below, but what it's up
Yes.
here. Very, very true. It resonates with me, and sometime I'll tell you about that.
Yes.
Yes. So I know you have a brand, a very powerful brand that is all about pursuing people to live their best dreams, to, as you rightly
Yes.
said, to live their lives and all that. And we do know that your personal experience has helped shape that mission,
Yes.
in trying to empower people in every which way but loose, if you understand.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
with all that has gone on now, how do you stay, and there's a lot happening around you, I know. How do you stay connected to the mission and to the vision of your brand?
Sure. And the brand, for your viewers and listeners, we're
Yes.
talking about DiBi DiBi, which is dream it, believe it, do it, be it. And just to back up a little bit, that brand came to me one night, while I was trying to sleep, go to sleep.
Mm.
And prior to my prostate cancer, diagnosis and the treatment and all of that, what happened was is after I got through my treatments, Grace, I said, you know what? From this point on, I'm going to make it a point to go after some dreams that I deferred for far too long. Because I think the more that we defer dreams and we let things go by, it has a negative impact on our mind, body, and spirit. And so one night, this was a year after my treatment, I was treated successfully. But one night, Grace, I could not go to bed and my spirit was being nagged because I did not follow through on my promise to go after some dreams. And so I'm tossing and turning, and then I hear this voice say "DiBi DiBi," and I'm like, "What in the world does that mean?" And I always keep a pen and paper next to my bed at night,
Mhm.
and so I started writing it down, and I said, "DiBi DiBi, what does that mean?" And just like this voice came and said, "Dream it, believe it, do it, be it." And that night changed my life forever. That next morning, Grace, I went out and got a T-shirt emblazoned with that name on it
Mhm.
and that slogan and mantra. And from that day forward, I have been making it a point to not let any moss grow under my feet. It is about realizing dreams and staying in motion. And I will say this, a lot of people talk about dreams, and not all dreams come true. But what they are they are mile markers. They're supposed to get us moving. Yes, one dream may change, one dream may not work out for you, but the purpose of a dream is to get you in motion. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of times, you may go down one path and you're like, you discover something else. But had you not been on that road, you would not have discovered that other thing. And so that's what my mission has been about, is including the health, but making sure that we include the mental health aspect, of
Yeah.
following dreams and trying to make those happen.
Absolutely. Sometimes we need to step back to be able to move forward. So even if we
Yes.
don't achieve what it is that we had set out to,
Yes.
even pausing is moving. Do you
Yes.
understand? Because
Yes.
even pausing is moving because you have
Yes.
you have made the effort to just stand still. It is an
Yes.
effort, as difficult
Yes.
as it may be. And I love I love your insights on that, honestly. And that's something that I'm sure your should I say tribe could really identify with.
Yes, it really is. And I think when we're, the bottom line to all of this is to work and operate in your life's purpose. And
Yes.
I believe that when we are all operating in our life's purpose, we
Hmm.
have a tremendous impact on those around us. And so that's part of with DiBi DiBi. It's not just a slogan; it is a
Hmm.
mission and a movement to get people to align themselves with their
Hmm.
purpose. Because if we're all operating in our purpose, the world benefits by us doing what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to be here on this earth to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, both you have a podcast,
Yes,
right? Tell us what the podcast is all about and how you
sure.
came about it as well.
Sure. Well, many, many years ago, Grace, I used to spend a lot of time in coffee shops. and I would overhear these conversations. And sometimes you'd have your boring ones, you'd have your mediocre ones, and then sometimes you get that good conversation that's going on, and you're like, it's time for a refill. Let me go get a refill of coffee so I can hear the rest of this story.
More.
That's right. And so this podcast that I created is really a takeoff of those coffee shop experiences.
Yes.
And the podcast is called Intentionally Overheard. And the tagline is where eavesdropping is highly encouraged. And so you can listen in as much as you want. But that podcast, what I aim to do is bring on guests to answer three essential questions about themselves. And the first one is, who am I really? The second is, why am I here? And the third is, and what am I supposed to do with my life? And so that's what the podcast is about, is having my guests answer those questions, and using that show as a platform to help other people find out just what they're supposed to do with their lives. And again, a lot of this is really an offspring of what I went through with my cancer journey, and to make
Mhm.
sure that I live my life to its fullest.
hmm Oh my goodness. It took me back to my own experience when, just like you said, you heard DiBi DiBi during your cancer diagnosis. It was almost the same for me. I would say it was actually the same because
Yeah.
I was undergoing radiation and I was, just falling apart, let's say that, about
Yeah.
3 a.m. in the morning. And that was when I got the push and the pull, and I overheard that voice telling me, get up,
Yes.
get some bullet points, and put together a show. This is not about you alone. This is
Right.
a bigger picture. And that's how this show that you're on started. And
Yes.
so when we listen, because it's spiritual what we do,
Yes. Yes. It is.
what we do is spiritual,
Yes.
but we should be silent to be able to hear. If we're all over the map, we can't hear, we can't get
Right.
that message.
Well, Grace, I got to tell you, one of the things that, and your viewers and guests and listeners probably saw how animated I was when you mentioned 3 o'clock.
Yes.
That was about the same time that I got this revelation for DiBi DiBi,
Ooh,
around the 3 o'clock hour. And subsequently, a lot of times my creative juices and all of those things happen around that 3 o'clock hour. And
yes.
so that is the time that I can always count on something being imparted on me to follow up on. But when you mentioned 3 o'clock, that's why I threw my hands up, because
Wow.
I'm like, that is around the same time that I came up with DiBi DiBi.
Yes. That's the spiritual hour,
Yeah,
as
it
they usually
is.
say, is when things
Yes,
happen, spiritual things happen.
indeed.
Spiritual awakenings, you're saying your prayers, you're putting everything out there to the universe. That's the quiet moment.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Oh, that's wonderful, honestly, Robert. So you are a guy that's talked about, that's loved, that's liked. You're all over social media, you're all over print media, you've been interviewed everywhere. Um, how have you been able to use your recognition? Because you have been, I mean, nationally recognized, you've been everywhere, especially with your work with zero prostate cancer. I
Yes.
would love you to highlight your work with zero prostate cancer first before we go back to the media section.
My work with zero prostate cancer, years ago, I was the chairman of the board of directors.
Mhm,
I've not served on the board for almost 3 years now, but I have to tell you, it was such a wonderful experience
mhm,
serving on the board for a great organization, great people within the organization and across the country. And so it opened up platforms, opportunities, but it really put me in contact with just your everyday folks across the country, Grace.
yes.
Folks that I never would have met, maybe, being here in Maryland, but, to know people at all corners of the country, and for some around the world. And
Mhm,
so it has really opened up a platform to try to reach as many men as possible about prostate cancer awareness, and try to make every effort to eliminate this disease. And
mhm,
you mentioned about the national notoriety that has been brought my way over the years. I also recognize the power of platform. And so I'm very cognizant about what I speak and what I say to folks because it is a huge platform. And, that's not, I think God gives us these platforms and we have to be grateful and guarded about how we use them. And so one of the biggest lessons I learned is, for the most part, a lot of people don't hear me talking about, hey, I was just in the Wall Street Journal, I was in the New York Times, because now the work is not about me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's years ago I would have been like, yay, guess where I was? But now it's like, I look at those opportunities now as really opportunities to spread some optimism, good faith, and help people along the way. And so while I'm very appreciative of those platforms, there is now this extra added responsibility to make sure that I'm, again, walking in my purpose and operating in my purpose.
Absolutely. The work is deep now.
Yes, yes, that's it. That
These
is
are not mundane things, anymore. The
right.
work is deep,
That's right.
whether we want to realize it or not. It is
Right.
true.
It is very much so.
Oh, wow. That's
Well,
that's excellent.
and the work that you're doing, advocacy work is very deep. And we also have to recognize that our battery needs to be charged every now and then as well, because you can become so involved in advocacy work that you lose yourself. And
Yes.
and I've experienced that in the past where I had to step back and say, well, wait a minute, who is Robert Ginyard? Robert
Hmm.
Ginyard needs some time to recharge his battery. So, like you said, the advocacy work is deep. And now I take it with a more measured approach about what I can do, where I can be, and really try to maximize the opportunities where I am to be more effective rather than trying to be everywhere.
Yes.
And again, a lot of that comes when you first come through your treatments and your gung ho, and that's understandable. But again, after some time goes by, you realize that you can't pour from an empty cup. So you got to make sure that the refills are coming.
Yes, exactly. And it begins with us because burnout is real, huh?
Oh,
Like you rightly said, sometimes I just say, you know what? That's it.
yes.
God knows I've tried my best and I just shut down
Shut it
and
down. Yes.
and that's it. By the time we now come back, we're more rejuvenated and can, really we can't pour from an empty cup,
Right. Indeed.
and if that even happens, the whole world will know that, this is us that used to be so vibrant and everything. And now, we're down in the dumps and everything.
Yes.
With the work
Yes.
we do, it shows.
Yes.
Our passion shows, our dedication shows, our commitment shows. And if that is lacking, people can easily tell that no, these people need a holiday. They've been taking too much.
And Grace, have you found that you're more guarded of your time now and
Yes.
preservation of energy?
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes. And
Hmm.
and that also comes with age too and
Yeah,
maturity.
right.
Because
That's
when
true.
you're much younger, you think that, oh, you have the bandwidth, you have everything,
Right.
going with you and all. But as you're 62, we're age mates basically. And
Yeah.
so by the time you realize it, you're like, oh my God, we're going to
Yes.
be 70 in a few years. I want to
Yes.
hit that 70 in good spirits and good health.
That's right.
And so I have to start now to guard my health,
Yeah.
cancer or not.
Exactly.
This is not just about cancer. Like I tell everybody, I just don't speak about cancer. I speak about wellness,
Yes.
well-being, mental health, and well-being. That's very
Yes.
important.
Well, and cancer, and not that look, that's the last thing we want us to do is have people get cancer to figure out what life is about. No, that's not.
No.
We don't want that. We want you to live your life, your best life, before
Hmm.
you get any kind of diagnosis. And a lot of times, if you're living your best life and you're in
Hmm.
alignment,
Hmm.
those other things will in some cases ward off
Hmm.
those kind of predispositions to diseases that may come through stress. And so yeah,
Yes.
it has been a learning experience. And that's the other thing, Grace. When I go out, a lot of times I talk about cancer maybe 10% of the times that I'm doing any keynote speeches because life is so much bigger than that.
Yes.
And so I just enjoy now the human engagement
Hmm.
and really, again, trying to help people come in alignment with their purpose now.
Absolutely. Without Once in a while, we can throw it in and say, "Hope you've done your checks or your scans or
Yes.
you're keeping tabs with what is necessary." And not forcing it on anyone. They will say, "Ah, that's true. I need to go check this out," and stuff like that. So yes, well, we're doing our bit, what is required of us, and I think the whole world knows that and appreciates that. So thank goodness we're still alive to even pay our experience forward.
You
Thank God
know,
for that.
and really, again, this may sound cliche, but of course, the ebbs and flows of life, we still have our ups and downs, but
Hmm.
but we come from a perspective now that really no day is really a bad day. You
Yes.
you may have some ups and downs throughout the day, but
All the
any
time.
any day that we are vertical and can walk
Mm,
around.
that's powerful. Vertical indeed. Still standing. Oh boy.
So yeah,
That just hit me.
yeah, as long as we're vertical, we can take on whatever comes our way.
Yes, exactly. Oh man. So I think I should ask this question. So, when it comes to cancer, this is the last question I'm going to,
Hmm.
to ask about cancer.
Okay.
What do you think some of the misconceptions are? I know initially you had mentioned about being intimate with our partners and stuff like that, but
Yes.
what else do you think would scare our brothers out there
Well,
about prostate cancer and even
sure.
not showing up on time to get
Yes.
tested?
Well, I think, one of the big things is the intimacy piece. There've been these stories about men with prostate cancer and how they're not able to make love with their partners afterwards, and that's totally not true the way it's been portrayed. I think the other thing is the men's sexuality, particularly with the part of the testing that involves the doctor inserting his finger in the rear end for a digital rectal exam. A lot of men still can't get over that.
DRE, yeah.
Yeah, the digital rectal exam. So a lot of men still can't get over that. And again, to a certain degree, I get that, Grace. But when I think about if there's something like that that can help me be a better dad, father, brother, to live longer, for a couple of seconds of that just to check,
Yeah.
it's so
It's
minor.
nothing.
Yeah, it's so minor in the grand scheme of things. So I
Mm.
think those two are really the biggest barriers when it comes to men wanting to get tested. But I will say this: I've started to see more men begin to take their health more seriously,
Hmm.
and that comes from one brother talking to another brother, because you realize, and particularly when you get a certain age, Grace, once you get over 50, you realize like now I know what it means to live, and
Hmm.
now I want more of life. So you
Hmm.
start to do those things that will prolong life. And so I'm starting to see that's a good sign. I'm starting to see a lot of men
Yeah.
become more active and making sure that they keep up with their doctor's appointments and all of those things. But to kind of circle back to those questions about what is holding some men back, again, it's the digital rectal exam and how will this affect me with my sexual life and intimacy.
Hmm.
And I group those as two different things. So
Hmm.
really, I think it's the sexual piece, but also the
The
DRE.
DRE,
Yes.
yes. Oh, wonderful. That's good information. And the fact that you have said nothing's going to stop you, even if you had to do that DRE again, you
Yes.
would, because you have
Oh
to
yeah.
preserve yourself for your family, for your friends, for community, even, because they still need you and need your
Indeed.
voice.
Indeed.
Absolutely. So, before I allow you to go,
Okay. Okay.
allow, you have to take permission.
Got it.
What would you say to the person that is watching us right now,
Mhm.
um, about how to take care of themselves and cancer prevention? What should I say? Advice? What would
Yes.
you say to them?
I would say it's a one word answer. And it would be why. And it starts with why. Why am I here? Why am I living? Why should I have good health? How does that affect others? And I think once you start with your basic why in life, that will help you make the doctor's appointments. That will help you take time out to recharge the battery. If your why is strong enough, then
Hmm.
all of those other things that come along with the why, the doctor's appointment, spending
Hmm.
time with your significant others and your family, all of those things come into play because now your why is so important
Hmm.
that who cares about a digital rectal exam? What my why is more important than that. Yes, let me get checked up. And so I think again, it starts with why, and once the why is strong enough, it will it will overcome any how or when or what. If you start with why, that's it right there.
That's brilliant. I'm so happy to hear that. So, for our audience out there, you've heard what Robert Ginyard has said. You have to begin with the why to be able to know why you must go to the doctors, why you must have that cancer prevention screening, and every other thing in between. Okay. So,
Yes.
um, dear Robert, thank you so, so
Yes.
much for coming onto the show. You have been just a treasure and,
Thank you.
sharing your wisdom nuggets, your experience and everything has been so, fulfilling. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and
Yes,
thank
we
God
finally made it
we
happen.
finally made it happen. Thank you
Yes.
so, so much for coming on, and I hope to see you again very soon.
That sounds great. Thank you. And to you and your audience, may your best lives and days be ahead of you.
Amen. And yours as well.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so
Grace.
much. God
Take care.
bless you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.
Hey guys, thank you ever so much for tuning in to our show, our monthly show actually, because we do this every month. Luckily, you were able to take away some wisdom nuggets from Robert Ginyard regarding prostate cancer checks, regarding bouncing back after a cancer diagnosis, and his word of advice to people who are scared to go for that necessary and critical PSA test. Please do the needful so that you are kept alive much longer with your loved ones. If you constantly like our, shows, please don't forget to hit subscribe and also do share our channel with people you think might benefit from our advocacy work. So until the next episode, I say stay motivated, do your medical checks because until there's a cure, prevention is the cure. God bless you. Love, love, and ciao, ciao. Bye bye now. Bye bye.